we've got our timing light hooked up. As you can see, we're verifying that we have actual engine speed. I've already dialed it in, just confirming after it's warmed up. We'll go take a look at our data scan. That way you know your mechanical timing is going to be set correctly. All right, guys, so a little bit tech talk on a Z32. This one is a 95 cobalt green, and this came into us because the customer was complaining that it was pinging. It had audible detonation that they could hear while it was on the dyno. It was dynoed somewhere else. I think probably he was just looking to see what kind of power it was making. So visually, a few things that I see: the throttle body boost hoses, they have cracks in them. Not that that's going to cause it to ping, but it will cause a issue with the air fuels, the mixture, you know, because it's a draw through mass airflow meter. If you've got any leaks, the mass airflow meter is measuring that air, but it's not making its way into the cylinders, so you will typically have a rich condition. So we see that. We can tell that it has original fuel pressure regulator, fuel pressure damper. We're going to take a look at the spark plugs. We'll get one of them removed. We'll take a look and see what spark plug's in there. But the biggest thing, and visually it's not hard to tell, especially if you know the VG30s or Nissans that have the crank angle sensor on them. You can just take a quick glance and you can look to see what position of rotation that sensor's in. So if we take a look at this thing, we'll get you in here to look, but you can tell that it is rotated in one direction heavily, and it's in the advanced position. So that already is going to tell me total dead giveaway that we have an issue with our ignition timing. So if it's pinging, it's probably because it's that. If it's actually showing that it's around 15 degrees where it's supposed to be, and it's that far advanced, either we have an issue with the timing belt not being installed correctly, maybe have jumped a tooth, who knows. The other thing is it could be a bad crank angle sensor, so we don't know. So we'll check our timing. We'll get the Nissan data scan on there to make sure the ECU is reading 15 degrees, and we'll take a look and see what our mechanical timing is. So we've got our timing light set up. Let's go ahead and we'll do that next. All right, we've got our timing light hooked up, as you can see, and adjustable light. We're verifying that we have actual engine speed, and we're getting it off of the #1 coil pack, and I've already dialed it in, just confirming after it's warmed up. We'll go take a look at our data scan. You want to verify that that's reading 15 degrees of timing so that it matches up, and we can see here, check that out. This is double of what it's supposed to be running. So we're running about 29 and a half degrees of total ignition advance. So thankfully, it sounds like the engine's okay, but this is enough to definitely destroy an engine, especially boosted on top of that on 91 octane. So verified it's at 29 degrees, and you'll see what I'm talking about for those that know what the crank angle sensor position should be. So usually you have equal distance of space between that bolt hole, but you can see it's completely advanced, and that is why more than likely it is pinging. 15 degrees, 14 and a half degrees really of just additional timing. So whatever your timing maps are in your calibration, you're adding 14 and a half degrees to that. So yeah, not good whatsoever. So this thing on the high load can definitely be running over 30 degrees of timing. So very, very bad. All right, again, data scan verifying our ignition timing at idle is 15 degrees. That way you know your mechanical timing is going to be set correctly. So you want that to match. The other thing is we want to make sure we have a closed TPS, closed hard idle, and just in general, making sure you're getting a good reading from our mass airflow meter, almost a volt. It's running a dual pop setup. You're going to see about a volt at idle. With a single MAF, you'll see about 1.2, somewhere in there for your MAF voltages. And so with that, a few things that we can look at. We haven't gotten this car up on the lift yet, but we can see that again, these boost hoses have cracks. They're super, super hard. It's got an aftermarket coolant temp sensor. We can tell because of the color that it is. Usually they're either going to be red if they're super old and original. Blue is what Nissan has switched over to for quite a long time. This one is black in color, and we know that this is aftermarket. Fuel pressure regulator and damper appear to be original, and on a car like this with so much time on it, it's a good idea to get that stuff replaced. Just good preventative maintenance, so you're not going to destroy a good VG30. So again, it has a dual pop. We can tell it's got the old school JWT low speed drivability hose, and let's pull a plug out. We'll shut this thing off, see what kind of spark plugs it's running. I'm going to take a guess. It's probably running PFR 6B11Bs, and we can see if they're gapped. Definitely want to run something a little colder. All right, so we're going to pull coil pack number 1 out, and the reason why is we want to see how it's been burning, and also while it's in here, if it can use a tune-up and go with a colder plug to help keep away any pinging and detonation. That is the enemy of any engine. All right, and so survey says it is a PFR 6B11B. So that is 1 step colder from factory, but that's not saying much. 5 was the actual heat range back then when Nissan delivered these vehicles. So we like to use the 7 heat range, and in some cases even an 8 heat range. So usually a car in Southern California, you can get away with an actual 8 heat range, which is probably ideal, especially if you're gonna be running elevated boost levels on 91 octane. So definitely make a recommendation to get these things swapped out, and we'll also do a visual check. It wouldn't hurt, because this car has never been into us, or it's probably been a super long time, just to do a compression check on the engine and make sure, and then we'll check our gap on this bad boy. But you can see it definitely on the wider side. It's grayish, so it could be a little bit on the lean side, but overall it looks decent. It's not missing a strap, a ground strap, and the engine's idling good. So that's good, especially with as far as the timing's been. All right, guys, we've got Brad's 95 300zx. Brad recently acquired this bad boy. Second visit. This visit, we went ahead and put all of our Specialty Z exhaust on it from the turbos back. Stock turbos, previous owner had brought it to us many moons ago to put in some brand new center sections for the stock turbos. So Brad's got a hold of it now, and we're going to town little bit by bit each little visit. So we've addressed the exhaust. It just had pretty much a crude little setup on it before. Now it's got our catback dual 2.5-inch setup, high flow cats. Really sounds good, and it's performing pretty well. So this thing's only making 8 pounds of boost, doing super good. We're making about 305. We did 3 passes, and we were just checking to make sure the state of tune looks good. It does. Air fuels are where they need to be, and just again, anytime we do anything like that, we want to check and not assume that everything's going to be okay. So we got it on the dyno, checking our air fuels, checking our boost level, and it's making the appropriate amount of boost at the stock level and a good amount of power. So this bad boy with a boost controller, easily almost double the boost, probably making somewhere in the mid 300s. Wake it up a little bit on a single intake again. So really not much done to it, just really basic stuff. Exhaust, single pop charger, and really that's it. So not too bad. So the cool thing about this car is that it's actually from Canada. So it has all the instrumentation, all the cluster stuff in kilometers. And you can kind of tell by looking at the bumper where the Canadian cars had a headlight, essentially nozzle, to clean the nozzles off, because there's quite a bit of mosquitoes and bugs up there, especially during the summer. So you can kind of tell where each nozzle sat at the front bumper on the Canadian spec cars. So, but really cool little setup. All right, guys, we have got another Zona Green GTR all wrapped up on the dyno. And as usual, these turbos don't disappoint. One of my favorite stock engine turbo upgrades for the R35. Yeah, thing is they just perform. You don't have any lag over stock, so just amazing. Basic supporting mods on this thing. You know, this one just has drop-in AEM fuel pumps, the ID 1300cc injectors, 3-inch intakes. It does have the AMS intercooler upgrade, the street version, and yeah, really not much more to it. Stock transmission. This bad boy on 91, we've got it about 650 wheel, and on E85, we're making 850 wheel. So 20 pounds of boost on 91 octane and about 25 pounds on E85. So there's definitely more that these turbos can do. I mean, we've pushed these turbos to almost 950 wheel. Not something I would recommend, of course, on a stock engine. And you know, that was with a car that had a little bit more supporting modifications, but we've gotten there. We've done like 930 on a stock engine. So, you know, not too far apart from that 950 figure.